Bah humbug from those of us at the Retro Gamer Guys. Light up. Now, when I sat down to think of what amazing game I should review for the Season 2 premiere, I thought I should do a special, some kind of episode where I talk about several games in a series and talk about the series as a whole as well as the games as individuals. But what game was as generic and unchanging and as mind-blowing for each installment as that? Well, luckily I didn't have to think too much about it because the big man Santa Claus himself brought me this magical big sock which every time I reach into it will provide me a new game. He said I can even use it for the entire season. Isn't that sweet of the guy? So let's see what he brought me. Tetris on the NES. That's a pretty cult followed game, yeah. But the big guy didn't stop from there. I mean, how could you? There's so many different versions of Tetris that some children in Zimbabwe couldn't tell that high. I mean, Tetris on the Game Boy, Tetris on the Nintendo 64, Tetris on the Xbox. This is just a sample of some of the different Tetris, different versions of Tetris there are out there. But and different competitors of it. But I thought that having one for close to about every generation would be nice. And before I go any further in this video, let me go ahead and talk about a few things. First, I do know about Tetris 2. I own it. But I was just sticking to the original Tetris here, and I will get back to it in a different time. 2, I do know about Tetris Attack. I do not own it, and that's one of the reasons I'm not talking about it. 3, the only reason I'm not using a Super Nintendo game is because I do not own any Super Nintendo Tetris games. And finally, yes, I do know about Columns. I own it, but I do not have AV cables for my Sega Genesis yet, so I could not talk about it because I couldn't get the footage that would be needed. With that said, let's begin with a look at Tetris on the NES. Let's get ready to see if this is a stocking stuffer or it's a stocking stumper with how horrible it is. Tetris on the NES. You can't get much more classic than this. There are 2 different game types to choose from, and 3 different styles of music, each of which are very good. And of course, the great feature to turn the music off, if you're ever just wanting to play by yourself, or if you're hiding the fact that you're playing from your mom. Anyway, Tetris is a very simple arcade style puzzle game. You use these little blocks, known as tetrominoes, used in various shapes, to create horizontal lines. The more lines you make, then the more points you get. Also, you get bonus points for making several lines disappear at once. And one of the most famous things on the NES is getting that 4-line Tetris. In fact, if I ever write a book called You Know You're a Gamer, if one of them would be if you have successfully completed over 2,000 4-line Tetrises. Anyway, it's a great game with great music, great graphics, and stands as a standard for any puzzle game. In my book, wow, good googly. Who would have thought a very simple puzzle game designed by some guy in the Soviet states of Russia could come up with an amazing game like this? Well, like all NES games, it had to have a Game Boy port. Now, this is a very special game for the Game Boy. It is one of the most, I believe there's only like three more Game Boys in the world were sold than number of copies of Tetris for the Game Boy sold. And it was bundled with it at one point. And it really is considered to be one of the best versions of Tetris, Does it live up to all the hype? Well, let's find out. Of course, there had to be a Tetris on the Game Boy. Because, of course, the standard is, if there's a game on the NES, it must go on the Game Boy. And the Game Boy's ports of NES games are infamous for either being very good or very, very bad. And I have to say, the balance is very much more shifted towards the bad side than the good. Now, there is no difference in gameplay style here. The only real difference in Game Boy Tetris and NES Tetris is the graphical limitations. Other than that, it's the same basic idea. Use tetrominos to make horizontal lines and get points without going over the top. My only complaint with the game is what happens if you go over the top. Really? A fart sound for a failure? I mean, it's like a 9-year-old kid programmed this game. Or someone was like, oh, well, we need something to make it so that they know they really messed up. Get the pork and beans. Well, aside from the fart fail noise, it's a great game, and it does serve as a standard of how to make a Game Boy game, how to port of an NES game correctly. In all, it's a 9.3 out of 10. Well, besides the fart failing noises, that is a very nice version of Tetris. Maybe it gets too much hype, and maybe it's not the best, but it is still worth your time and money. I mean, and it's not like you're paying a fortune for this game. You can find it for like $1 or less at any store that knows their prices. But let's amp up the bits a bit. We're going to look at the new Tetris on the N64. Now, I could talk about it and say how good it is and how good the music and the art style is and etc. But I'm too lazy, so I'll let Chris from NES Complex do it for me. He's the guy that really captures the true beauty of this game.
The new Tetris? I've played so much Tetris in my life that I'm kind of numb to the game, but the new Tetris added some brilliant little twists. First of all, you could put a block up in the storage area, but also you could combine tetrominos to make perfect squares called blocks, and when you cleared these, you got extra points. Also, you could spin tetrominos in seemingly impossible ways, and if you did it successfully, it would cause the blocks around to turn into individual squares, which would fall into empty spaces below, basically creating combos in a Tetris game. But the thing that kept me up into the wee hours of night was the ability to save up your cleared lines and use these to buy architectural wonders from human history, like Mayan temples, the Egyptian Sphinx, and the Roman Pantheon. Anyway, the new Tetris is a brilliant game, and it's number 18 on my list.
Thank you, Chris, for allowing me to use that clip. And if you guys are interested in seeing more of his videos, you can click the link in the description below. But to finally conclude this little cadaver, let's go with a disc. I'm kind of getting tired of those dusty carts with their plasticness and their little pins get put in there, get blown, and it makes work. So let's look at Tetris Worlds on the Xbox. Now, important to note is that this is not just Tetris Worlds on its own. It's also mixed with Star Wars, the Clone Wars. So I'm expecting it to be, well, we had this kind of abysmal Star Wars game, and I feel what people need is a demo for Xbox Live, and also I'm afraid they'll feel a bit disappointed if they play this Star Wars game, so let's throw in something that they can enjoy and will keep nagging us about how they wasted $50 on this game and only got one of the worst Star Wars games of all time. So they threw in Tetris Worlds and called it a night. Am I saying Star Wars: The Clone Wars is bad? No. I'm just saying the movie was, and so must the game. But now, let's look at Tetris Worlds. Ugh, Tetris Worlds. I don't even want to talk about this game, really. Well, first thing, it's the first Tetris game to have a story mode, which is interesting, but, I mean, what kind of story can you have for falling blocks that you make into lines? Not much. And also, the way it executes the story is one of the worst I've seen of any game. There's really no explanation, and even when there is, it's too shaky and too weird and too confusing to even understand. It's a novel idea that they have a story mode for falling to trauma nodes, but I mean, it really is unnecessary and adds a lot and takes a lot away from the game. Also, the controls are messed up. I mean, how can you mess up the controls on a Tetris game? I don't know, but for some reason it always seems whenever I'm trying to move a block over to the left, it keeps pushing it towards the right of the screen. The only reason you might consider buying this game is because of a few interesting features in the arcade mode, which adds just regular Tetris. It has things like square and sticky, stuff like that, which is kind of interesting, but not enough to save this game. Overall, I give it. I kind of want to go cry after playing this. We've gone through 3 games now, to NES, to Game Boy. Forget the Game Boy, for Christ's sakes. Almost every single NES game that was converted to Game Boy sucked. And I even stated this is one of the best versions of Tetris anyone will ever play. Into the N64. And we go to a huge revolutionary system, the Xbox, with a disc and the capabilities of playing things such as DVDs and CDs, and so much huge leaps and advancements in technology than the 8-bit NES, and they can't even get simple Tetris right. How can you mess up Tetris? It's Tetris. I mean, unless you're dying to play it on anything, any kind of Tetris you can get your hands on, your grippy little hands on, that's when you buy this game. But if you're looking for a huge revolutionary step in the right direction for Tetris, this is, I have never been so vomitroted. That is an adjective for the feeling something gives you when you want to throw up. Something gives you the feeling you want to throw up. That's what Tetris Worlds does to me. Maybe I'm looking too much deep into this. In the end, the NES Tetris, Game Boy Tetris, and N64 Tetris are the places to go. They're my picks, and Tetris Worlds on the Xbox is my flick. This has been Retro Renegade. Thank you for watching our Season 2 premiere. And I'm sorry I gave you such a high with how awesome the other 3 games are. And then I had to ruin it all with Tetris Worlds! This has been Retro Renegade. I'll be in the corner with this game, crying tears of a man onto this because of this. Hey guys, thank you for watching my Tetris special. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching the Season 2 premiere. We have lots of good stuff coming this season, and I hope you enjoy it all. I hope you subscribe. Please subscribe, like, and comment on this video. It really helps us out. Share us on Google, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can put our links into other people's faces, into their eye holes. and put their fingers, Volandes, click on it and subscribe to us wherever you can put that. Put us there. It's greatly appreciated. And also, please subscribe yourself. We've got lots of good stuff coming out this season. Every 2 Wednesdays is going to be a review, and every 2 Fridays is going to be a top 10. So what it's going to be is it's going to be review 1 week, and then next week we'll go top 10. That way it's not going to be review and top 10 each week. That way there's a big video for you to watch each week. On Friday, I'll give you a little Wii U unboxing. Got one for Christmas, and from my grandma, and I hope you enjoy that. Also I demonstrated a few pickups recently. But anyway, thank you again for watching, and please subscribe. See you later.